All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Game Plan College workshop. My name is Rachel Worsham, and I'm a post-secondary access advisor with the Game Plan College team at the Emily K Center. So today I'm going to be presenting to you all on the college going process. So if you have any questions while I'm talking, please feel free to take your cursor and click the chat button in the bottom of your screen and type out your questions in the chat box. I will get to them at the end of the session. Probably won't be able to see them as I'm presenting. So feel free to ask any questions and I will get to them at the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Whoops. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. All right, so like I said, today I'm going to talk a little bit about the college application process. So during this presentation, I'm going to take you from what you should be doing right now if you're a junior, all the way to your senior year when you're making your decision. So first I'm going to talk about researching and creating your list, which is something that you can do right now. Taking your standardized tests, your SAT and ACT. As we all know, those might be a little bit up in the air, but I'll talk about that. Applying to colleges, so how to apply, all the things you need. And then finally, filling out your financial aid. Oh, and then finally making a decision. So something that you can do right now, even if you aren't a rising senior, so even if you are a rising freshman, sophomore, junior, you can research and start to create your college list. So there are a couple ways that you can find information about college. So you can look online. Website that we really like is bigfuture.collegeboard.org. This is sponsored by the College Board, the people that make the SAT and the AP test. But they have a really nice tool where you can filter out the things that you want. So you can say, okay, I want to be in this city, or I'm looking for an HBCU, or here are my test scores, tell me what colleges I might fit at. You can also just look at school websites. They will have probably videos, virtual tours. You can also take a look at our virtual college visits, which are posted on our YouTube channel. So another resource is college representatives. So you can watch our information sessions. You can also set up a call with these folks. So it seems like a lot of colleges are, since they can't really do tours in person, they are able to set up one-on-one virtual visits with students. So if there's a college that you're really interested in, please reach out to their admissions office, even if they don't have any scheduled opportunities or any language like that on their website. Reach out anyway, because they're probably going to be more than happy to talk to you. So after you have started looking online, there are some things that we want you to think about. So as you're making your college list, we want you to consider match and fit, which I'll get into in a second. But when you're making your list, you're gonna be applying to maybe 5 to 7 schools. So 1 to 2 of these schools will be reach schools, 2 to 3 will be match, and 1 to 2 will be safety schools. So I will get into that in a bit. So when we're talking about making your list based on match and fit, we are really talking about 2 things. So first, match is all about your numbers. So I want to start by saying your SAT, ACT, GPA are not the only things about you that colleges will be looking at. So your numbers do not define you. However, they help colleges kind of figure out whether you're going to be successful at their school. So before you see the all 17 public schools in North Carolina, and you see their average unweighted GPA, their mid-range, the middle 50% score on the SAT, ACT, their deadlines, and their cost per year. So when you're looking at these schools, you want to compare your numbers to what you see on the screen. So I like to use the Goldilocks analogy. So you don't want to apply to a school that's going to be too easy for you. So you don't want to go to a place where you could not show up to class for the whole semester and still get an A. While that sounds really nice, you're paying a lot of money for college, so you really want to get the best bang for your buck. So you don't want to apply to school that's too easy. So for Goldilocks, that would maybe be the porridge that's too cold. You also don't want to apply to a school that's going to be too rigorous for you. So you really don't want to be struggling every single day to keep up. That's not going to be good for your mental health. It's probably not going to be that fun, and college is supposed to be fun. So you don't want to apply to a school that's too difficult, or, their porridge is too hot. So you want to find a school that's a good match for you. And a way you can do this is by comparing your GPA, mid-range SAT, and mid-range ACT. So when we're thinking about applying or making your college list, when you are looking at creating your safety schools, you want to look for schools where your GPA, your SAT, and your ACT are above what their published numbers are for the prior year's class. So let's say that I have a 23 on the ACT. So as I'm looking down this list, I'm thinking Elizabeth City State might be good, Fayetteville State, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, because my score is well above what 50% of the incoming class had. So that might be a good safety school for me. Now let's say I am looking for some match schools. So I have a 23. Looks like UNC Asheville might be a good match for me, UNC Charlotte, UNC Greensboro. And I say that because the 23 is falling within this mid-range here. Finally, you're going to want to apply to some reach schools. So these are schools where their average numbers are above what you have, but you think there's something about your college application that makes you stand out. So I want you to be careful when you're applying to these schools because, like I said, you don't want to apply to a college that's going to be too difficult. But I'm also telling you to apply for reach schools. So if you have a 23 on your ACT, it might not be a great idea to apply to school where their average is like a 27 to a 32, because that's well above your ACT. But maybe a good reach school would be, let's see, if you have 23, maybe North Carolina State or Appalachian State. So you have a 23, Appalachian State's mid-range is 24 to a 28. So that might be a good reach school for you. Now, I am telling you all of this based on SAT and ACT scores, and we don't know if you're going to be able to retake your SAT and ACT in the future. So from there, schools might be relying a little bit more on what your transcript says. So they might be looking at your GPA more carefully. We don't talk about GPA that much when we're talking about match because your GPA really depends on what your high school has to offer. So if your high school has 25 AP courses that you can enroll in and you've enrolled in a lot of them, your GPA is going to be higher than a student who maybe only had the option to take 2 AP courses. So if you are not able to take the SAT and the ACT and it looks like schools are going to be looking more at your GPAs, make sure that you're looking at your unweighted GPA. So this does not take into account those AP and IB courses. So you can refer back to this list and see where you fall. So we talked all about your numbers, but I said that, your numbers aren't everything. So schools in North Carolina are also going to be looking at the courses that you've taken. So the minimum requirements to attend a public college in North Carolina are that you've taken these courses, so especially important, these 2 foreign language courses. So this means that you took Spanish 1, Spanish 2, or French 1, French 2. This doesn't mean that you took Spanish 1 and then French 1, so they have to be consecutive. So a lot of students miss that. If you are approaching your senior year and you haven't taken any foreign language, if your school is on a, what is it called? A semesterly schedule, so block schedule, I think, maybe you can take Spanish 1 first semester, Spanish 2 second semester. The UNC system has a minimum GPA requirement. So your GPA must be above a 2.5 in order for you to be eligible to attend a North Carolina institution or a North Carolina four-year public college. And they also have minimums for the SAT and ACT. So you must have an 880 on the SAT or a 17 on the ACT. Like I said, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with these tests. So for the class that is applying now, so for seniors, the system office made some changes to their minimum requirements. We don't know yet if these are going to carry on over into next year, but just so you know, for the students that are applying now that aren't able to take their tests, the system is asking for a 2.5 minimum weighted GPA or a 19 on the ACT or a 1010 on the SAT. So if students weren't able to take these tests, they could just submit their GPA and be considered for admission. So this might change for you all, but just so you know, the UNC system is keeping abreast of this and making changes to make sure that you can still apply to college if you haven't been given the opportunity to take standardized tests again. So when you're thinking about making your college list, of course you want to look at your numbers because you want to succeed academically, but you also need to think about how you're going to succeed personally. So there's a ton of research that says that students who attend colleges that aren't a good fit for them don't persist, have a lower likelihood of persisting to graduation. So what am I talking about when I'm saying fit? So these are all the personal things that might make your institution feel like home. So some questions to ask yourself, if you want to major in, athletic training, does the school offer that major? It would be kind of a waste to go to a college that didn't offer what you want to major in. So does the school have your major? Do you like the location? If you really hate being cold, attending App State might not be the best option for you because it's in the mountains. Do you want to attend a small school or a large school? What's campus life like? So if you really like the idea of going to football games in the fall, maybe UNCG won't be the best option because they don't have a football team. What are housing options like? If you know that you will need to live on campus all 4 years, you need to make sure that that college guarantees housing on campus all 4 years. There are several public colleges in North Carolina that do not guarantee housing all 4 years. How much financial aid are they giving you? So is going to this college going to put you in a lot of debt? Or is going to this college, going to be the right financial situation for your family? So these are things that you need to think about now and talk to your family about. So once you've made your college list, the next thing that you need to do is start working on the elements of the application. So what you can do now is start thinking about taking standardized tests. Right now, the tests for late summer, so the SAT and ACT, are open for you to register for, but we really don't know how coronavirus is going to progress. So if you think that you need to take these tests again, maybe go ahead and sign up and prepare like the test is going to happen. And then if you are not able to take the test, they will most likely refund you, or maybe they'll come up with some sort of online option. But you want to give yourself the most flexibility to have your college application ready. So just a little bit about the SAT and the ACT. The SAT is scored out of 1,600 and the ACT is out of 36. Most colleges are going to require these test scores. So when I say most colleges, I'm talking about four-year colleges and universities. Community colleges will take these test scores to help place you in courses, but they're not required. Some colleges are moving to become test optional in the wake of coronavirus. So we're seeing this a lot with private four-year institutions. We'll see what happens with the public colleges as we get closer to their applications opening. But in lieu of these tests, some colleges are asking for a paper that you've written in high school or some sort of portfolio. So make sure that when you're making your list, you're writing these things down so you can prepare to apply. So like I said, there are minimums for NC public colleges. So that's the 880 on the SAT and a 17 on the ACT. And then we've seen the system make some changes. So just keep an eye out for this. We really can't predict what they're going to do, but typically applications open in August, so you should know relatively soon. If you think you need to take a standardized test, so maybe let's say Western Carolina is your dream college, you really, really want to go there, but your ACT is a little bit below what they typically admit, start prepping for the ACT, sign up for the ACT. There are a ton of online resources, so you can go to actstudent.org and they have tests from prior years. You can go online and buy a test prep book. I would suggest buying one for the year prior. The test hasn't really changed that much between this year and last year, and the book for last year is going to be less expensive. We are also offering a summer intensive for juniors, where in the second week is just going to be ACT prep. This is free, and we will put our email in the chat if you want to send us an email asking for that sign up link. So after you have made your college list, you know where you're going to apply, you've started preparing for the SAT and the ACT, it's time to start applying to colleges. So like I said, most applications open up in August, so you can start applying then. So unfortunately, colleges like to put their applications in several places, which is a little bit confusing. But here are the 4 most common places you're going to see college applications. So the first place is the Common Application. So on your right, you'll see all the schools in North Carolina that in 2019 were on the Common App. So in some ways, this is really nice because you fill out all of your information once, you write one Common App essay, and that goes to all of the schools. In some ways, it's a little confusing because, yes, you have put in all of the same information is going to all these colleges, but some of these colleges are going to have supplemental essays or supplemental questions that they want you to answer. So as you are planning your college application game plan, make sure that you write down exactly what each college asks for. The way that I like to organize these things is in a spreadsheet, but if you have another way of organizing it, you can do that as well. I just highly suggest that you keep all of this information in one place and you write it down in a systematic way so you don't end up confusing yourself. Another place that you might find applications is the Coalition application. So I believe the only colleges in North Carolina on the Coalition application are UNC, NC State, Duke, and Davidson. And finally, cfnc.org. This will be for North Carolina colleges and community colleges. I believe you will apply to all of the community colleges on cfnc.org and only some of North Carolina colleges on CFNC. But if you participate in Free College Application Week, which is in October, you'll be applying through CFNC. And then finally, you can just look on college websites. They will tell you exactly where their applications are. Some colleges still host their own application, but that's becoming less common. Okay. So there are many different places you can find your college application. There are also different types of deadlines. So this is another reason why you want to be organized. You want to write down what type of deadline you're applying and when that is. So the first type of deadline is the early decision deadline. So for the early decision deadline, you want to be really careful about applying to these. The reason I say that is that technically this application is binding. So let's say that you want to go to Duke and you apply early decision. You're telling Duke that if you accept me, I am going to come to your school. So really you should only apply early decision to one college or university, because if you're accepted, you're legally bound. Legally bound, I say that in quotes. They're not going to sue you or anything, you just might lose some money. So you're bound to attend that school. So a reason that you would want to apply early decision is that maybe your SAT, ACT scores or your GPA are kind of below what they typically admit, but you really, really want to go to that school. It's your dream college, and you know that you can pay for it. Oftentimes, you will receive your admission decision before you receive your financial aid packet from that college. So if you apply to attend Duke early decision and you are accepted and they send you a financial aid package that has you taking out, $40,000 in loans over the course of, a few years, you might, in normal circumstances, have second thoughts. But if you've applied early decision, you're telling them that I'm going to come. So if paying for college is kind of a concern for you, I would maybe stay away from early decision deadlines because you're not giving yourself really any opportunity to weigh financial aid packages between colleges. So these are mostly for private schools. So Duke, Davidson, and Wake Forest have early decision options. Public colleges do not have early decision. So the early application for public colleges and also many private colleges is called early action, and this is non-binding. So you apply, October through December, depending on the college, and you have until May to make that decision. So this application might be, I would consider applying for this, A, to get your college applications out of the way, but B, at some colleges, you also have a better chance of getting in if you apply early. Not all colleges, but some. So we typically tell students, if you can apply to the early action deadline, please do. Some students get concerned if they're taking fall SAT and ACTs that maybe their test scores won't come in on time. Most colleges give you some leeway, and if you reach out to them and you say, hey, I filled out your October application, but I took the October ACT, most schools are willing to work with you and wait for your test score. And then there are regular decision deadlines. So these are typically in the spring. We tend to tell students to apply early if they can, but you can apply regular decision. So at some colleges, you will have a lower chance of getting into these schools because they've already started filling up slots. Maybe a reason to apply regular decision is that you are taking the November or December SAT or ACT, or maybe you're waiting for your first semester grades to come in to bolster your GPA a little bit. So this is kind of a strategy game when you're figuring out when you want to apply to colleges. So the last application deadline is called rolling admission. So rolling means that you can apply anytime. So colleges will say our application is open from October to July. Apply anytime within that time frame, and we will get you a response within a month. So this is really nice because you find out fairly quickly, and it's also nice because if you have a lull in your college application deadline, so maybe you have applied in October and November and you don't have any applications due in January, that might be a good time to apply to these rolling admission deadlines. So here are the deadlines for the UNC system schools for the 2019-2020 school year. So you'll see that the first deadline are in October. So UNC has an October 15th deadline. That's early action. Western Carolina, we have some in November. When we're looking at regular decision deadlines, the earliest is in January and the latest goes all the way up to April 1st. So you see that you have, quite a bit of time to apply to these schools, but like we said, we highly suggest that you apply to the early action deadlines, not only to increase your chances of getting into the colleges, but also to get it out of the way so you can really enjoy the second semester of your senior year without having to worry about all of this. So I just want to talk a little bit about the components of your application. So what are they going to ask you for? First, they're going to ask you for some personal information. So name, address, they're going to ask for your social security number, your NCID, or NCY, so your student ID number. The next thing they're going to ask for is some information about your residency. So I will talk about this in a moment, but you will need to fill out the residency determination service to get your residency certification number. This basically tells the colleges what tuition rate to charge you, so whether you are in state or out of state. And you can file that now, actually, if you'd like to. The next thing is your transcript. So colleges want to see how you did in high school. They want to see what kind of courses you've taken, if you've challenged yourself. So that will be sent from your high school. You can also send that through CFNC if you link your student ID number. The next thing they're going to ask for, like I've talked about, is your test scores. They will ask you to self-report your test scores on your application. And then if you are admitted and you decide to attend, they're going to ask you to actually log on to SAT or ACT and have them send a score report. You will most likely be writing an essay. What your essay is about really depends on the college. So those colleges on the Common App, you're going to write one essay that goes to all of the colleges, but the schools might ask for a supplemental essay. So UNC certainly asks for supplemental essays. I believe NC State does as well. And these might be essays asking, why NC State, why UNC? Or they might be more interesting questions like, if you had to be a character in a novel, who would you be? Or something like that. So something to think about is to look at the Common App essays and start brainstorming what you're going to write about. Those don't really change year to year. So you can go ahead and start writing your college essays now if you'd like. And then finally, colleges are going to ask you for payment. I will be the first to say that college applications are not cheap. They range from, $40 to $80, depending on the school. So a reason that you might want to be really careful about making your college list is that you don't want to send $80 to 10 schools. That's going to be $800. So you really want to be careful about choosing the schools you apply to. If you receive free and reduced lunch at your high school, or you think that paying for your college application is going to be a strain on your family, go talk to your college advisor or your high school counselor, because they can give you a fee waiver, which will waive the fee on these applications. I also forgot to say this, but if you, again, are on free and reduced lunch, or you're experiencing some financial hardship, you can talk to your counselor about getting a fee waiver for the SAT and the ACT as well. So you don't have to pay for these if it's going to be hard on your family. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the residency determination service. Like I said, that's the second thing on the components of the application. So proving that you're an in-state or out-of-state student. So this is really the first step in applying. So you will need to go to this website, ncresidency.org or cfnc.org. You are going to log in, and it's going to ask you some questions about yourself and your family. So it's going to ask you about where your parents live. It's going to ask for their personal identification numbers. So that is their social security number, their ITIN. They're going to ask for that information from you. They might ask about car registrations. If you go on the website, they have a list of documents that you will need to have on hand. We suggest that you sit down and fill this out with your parent, because it's going to ask a lot of information about them. So I do want to warn students that even if you are a citizen, so you're born in the United States, you have a social security number, if your parents are undocumented or your parents don't have a social security number, if they're not citizens, The Residency Determination Service is going to tell you that you're an out-of-state student, which is going to tell colleges to A, evaluate your application as an out-of-state student, and B, to charge you out-of-state tuition. However, if you are a resident of North Carolina and you are a U.S. citizen, you are entitled to in-state tuition. So you're going to have to go through something called the appeals process, where you will submit some documentation basically proving that you are a North Carolina resident. So that process is going to be a little more complicated for you. If you fill out the Residency Determination Service and you get a classification that you think is wrong, so, if you are a citizen, you've lived in North Carolina for, more than a year, and you get classified as out of state, please contact us and we will help you through the appeals process. Something important to note is that you only have 10 calendar days from the time of your application to go through the appeals process. So as soon as you get an email certifying, whatever your designation is, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, if you think it's wrong, send us an email so we can work through that with you. Because if you don't do it within that window, you have to fill out this application all over again. You may be thinking, okay, what if I just don't fill it out? If you don't fill this out and this number, your residency certification number, is not on your college applications, the colleges will consider your application incomplete and will not review it. So you have to have your RCN, your residency certification number, on your application. I see a bunch of questions are coming in. I will get to those in a second, I promise. So the next thing on your application that I'd like to talk about is your personal statement. So when you are writing your personal statement, you really want to think about what's going to make you stand out and what's going to really portray, this. So first, make sure you're answering the prompt. Be yourself. When you're writing, don't think about what you think the admissions counselor wants to hear. Just write your experience, because these admission counselors read thousands and thousands and thousands of essays. Some typical ones I see are, sports as a metaphor for life. So I played this soccer game and we lost, and it really taught me about, how to pick myself up. That might have happened and it was probably significant, but if you can think of other things that are maybe more unique and can tell these colleges something about you that they maybe wouldn't see if they just looked at your resume. If you'd like to brainstorm these, we can help you brainstorm. Again, we are having a summer intensive this summer for rising seniors, and we're going to be working on essays. So we'll help you kind of think through what experiences you could write about in your personal statement. Something that's really important is getting other people's eyes on your essay. You will make grammatical mistakes, maybe some typos. When I applied to graduate school, I read my essay hundreds of times, and every time after I submitted, I found a mistake. So make sure that other people are looking at your personal statement. So the next thing that you're going to do after you have applied to college is you're going to apply to financial aid. So the way that you do this is through your free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. This opens October 1st. We suggest that you fill this out early, not only because it gets it out of the way, but also colleges only have a certain amount of money that they can give students, and it's first come, first serve. So if you can, fill this out as early as possible. It's going to use your parents' income, which is based on their 2019 taxes, to determine your financial need. So it's going to ask for them to supply information that can be found on their 1040 and their W-2s. If you worked and you filed taxes in 2019, you will also need to pull out your taxes and supply that information. So after you file the FAFSA returns a number called an expected family contribution. So what this is that FAFSA takes information from your taxes and it says, okay, I think that this family could potentially pay X amount to send their student to college. So let's say that your EFC is $5,000. That's the FAFSA saying, I think that your family could contribute $5,000 a year to your education. We know, and financial aid officers know, that things change, and things have changed between 2019 and now. So your EFC is not always what you're going to be asked to pay for college. So if you see that number and it looks really high, don't freak out. But do know that that is the number going to the colleges that you are applying to and that you're sending your FAFSA to. So when you file your FAFSA, like I said, they're going to send your EFC and your information to the colleges that you've applied to and have chosen to send your financial aid information to. So what colleges do is they take your EFC and they compare it to their cost of attendance to determine how much they need to offer you in financial aid in order for you to reasonably be able to afford their college. So if a school costs $25,000 and your EFC is $5,000, they're going to say that your financial need, so what you need to afford this college, is $20,000. Some colleges are able to meet full need, meaning that if they see that your financial need is $20,000, they're going to find loans and scholarships and grants to make up this amount. Some do that, but not all schools. So some schools in North Carolina that do meet full need are UNC, NC State, Duke, Davidson, and Elon. Some of these schools are going to require an additional financial aid application called the CSS profile. I wouldn't worry about filling that out until you are admitted to that college. So another reason to apply early is if you apply to, UNC in October, you find out by January, you can fill out your CSS profile in January and still be able to fill it out in time for them to give you some institutional funds. Colleges may include loans in your packages. I'll talk about that in a moment. It is rare that colleges do not offer you loans, mostly because that money is coming from the federal government and not their, purse bag. You should expect at least $5,500 in loans per year if you have a low EFC. So if your family is not expected to pay a lot for college, it is likely that you're going to be offered loans. So the types of financial aid that colleges can offer you to make up or to fulfill your financial need are grants. So this is free money. When you apply to the FAFSA, if you have a low EFC, you are likely going to be eligible for the Pell Grant. So this is up to $6,200 a year, which is a lot of money. So these are funds that you do not have to pay back. It is free money, so make sure that you accept these on your financial aid letter when you get it from colleges. Another type of financial aid is loans. So this is money that you will have to pay back once you finish college. There are two types of loans: subsidized loans, which do not accrue interest as you move throughout college, and unsubsidized loans, which do accrue interest. If you want to hear more about those types of loans and more detail about financial aid, you can watch our financial aid workshop, which is posted on our YouTube channel. But you should expect at least $5,500 per year if you have a low EFC and you decide to attend an institution that cannot offer you enough grants to make up for this $5,500. So we suggest that you take loans from the federal government because they have low interest rates and better repayment plans than loans from banks or private institutions. If you get to your financial aid award letters and you think you might have to take a loan from, Wells Fargo or Bank of America, please come talk to us and we can talk you through some other options to avoid taking these loans. Colleges can also offer you work study. So essentially, you work on campus, you get paid, and that money goes towards you. It either goes into your pocket or it goes towards your financial aid. These are typically only offered on financial aid packages if you have a low EFC, so if you're not expected to pay a lot for college. And then finally, there are Parent Plus loans. So these are loans offered from the federal government. So they have lower interest rates than private loans, but your parent is on the hook for paying these, and your parent must qualify with credit. So whereas with your student loans, you don't have to have credit to take these loans out, your parents must qualify with credit. And we can talk through that with you if you see Parent Plus loans on your financial aid award letter. So finally, after you've filled out your application, you have filled out your FAFSA, you need to make a decision. So some really important things to think about as you're doing this are not only your fit, so are you going to be happy about that college, but also is that college affordable? When you make this decision, you will need to pay your enrollment deposit by May 1st, which is called Decision Day. And make sure you're letting other schools know that you're not going to be attending that institution. So if you decide to go to UNC, make sure that you tell App and NC State and Duke that you're not attending. You can typically do this on your application portal. You just, click no, I'm not coming, and that takes care of it. So I just want to talk a little bit about making your final decision when looking at your financial aid award letters. So this is an example of a financial aid award letter from Fayetteville State. So if you look here, you see that there are all these costs that add up to your total cost per semester. Again, if you want more detail on this, please go watch our financial aid PowerPoint because I'm just gonna gloss over this. But essentially, Fayetteville State in 2016-2017 costs about $16,000. So this is their cost of attendance. Just to note that some of these are things that you will have to pay. So you're going to have to pay tuition and fees. You're going to have to pay room and board. But some of them are variable fees. So supplies, transportation, miscellaneous fees. You might not end up paying $200 in the fall for supplies. So cost of attendance typically represents the most you will pay for college because it's assuming that you're going to spend all of this money here. If you would like a more realistic idea of what you're going to be paying, just think about your room and board and tuition and fees and maybe add, $500 to $800 in there for textbooks. So when you're looking at your cost of attendance, we want you to think about this number here. So this is the most that you'll pay. So when you're looking at your financial aid award package, you'll see grants. So we see that federal Pell Grant, which you got from filing your FAFSA. So that totaled $5,800. We see a couple grants here. I believe this is also a grant. I actually believe these are all grants. So in grants, this student is getting $11,000. So if you subtract the cost of attendance from the amount of free money this student is getting, they now only have a gap of about $500 or $5,000, which could possibly be made up for in federal student loans. Here's another financial aid award letter. So again, we see the total cost of attendance is $18,000 for UNC Greensboro. Again, you'll see this is sort of similar to the last award letter. So we see tuition, we see fees if you're taking, or your student fees, we see room and board. And then here are those variable costs, so the things that you might not actually be paying in full. So I don't know what you would be spending $1,500 in. This might be for snacks if you're hungry. But if you're frugal, you might not be spending $1,500 on miscellaneous things. So just keep in mind as you're looking at this number, don't get scared. So their cost of attendance is $18,000, closer to $19,000. Let's look at your financial aid award letter. So you have a grant, the Pell Grant. You have another grant, and then here are those federal loans. So you can see that these two add up to $5,500. The student also got a scholarship from UNCG, so their total financial aid award package with loans is going to amount to about $16,000. So $19,000 minus $16,000 are only going to be paying about $2,500 to $3,000 out of pocket. If your parents are able to pay that, great. If not, you could think about getting a job on campus or negotiating for more money or just applying for more scholarships your senior year. So if you get your financial aid award letter and you'd like to chat through exactly what all of this means and what it's actually going to look like for you, we're happy to do that. So I just want to note that the process for international students, DACA students, if you're not a US citizen, is going to be a little bit different. So if you are DACA or undocumented, or you do not have a Social Security number and you're not a permanent resident, you're going to be classified as an international student. The process is the same, except that you do not have the opportunity to receive in-state tuition. So unfortunately, if you've lived in North Carolina your whole life and you don't have a Social Security number, you're going to be charged out of state tuition. And because of state law, that is not something that you will be eligible to receive. Also, if you do not have a Social Security number, you are not able to qualify for federal student aid or state aid. So if that applies to you, we'd be happy to talk to you about your options and a way to go to college that's cheaper than, these schools that cost $19,000 a year. So that's all I have. I will get to questions in a moment, but I just wanted to remind you all to please take our survey at bit.ly/GPC workshop. And just to remind you that we have more information sessions this week, and our full schedule is at this link right here, bit.ly/GPC virtual. So I'm going to stop sharing and go ahead and take your questions if you have any. Okay. So one of the questions that has been answered, but I'll just read it out. Do fee waivers apply to SAT subject tests too? Christina replied, yes, you can get up to 2 SAT regular tests and 4 subject tests with the College Board fee waiver. Let's see. Is there a limit to the amount of application fee waivers a student can receive? I believe for colleges, technically the limit is 4, but there is a different kind of fee waiver that isn't tracked. It's called a NACAC fee waiver, so just talk to your counselor about getting those fee waivers. Does anyone else have any questions? If a university meets 100% of demonstrated financial need, but I can't afford it, so about $70K per year, and it's my dream school, would it be okay to apply early decision? So that's tricky. I would be inclined to say this would be a situation in which it might help you to apply early decision. Especially if your numbers are pretty far below what they typically admit. If you know that they meet 100% of demonstrated financial aid, and you also know that when you file the FAFSA, your EFC is going to be close to 0. So a way to figure this out is to go to the college website and fill out something called their net price calculator. So the federal government told all of the schools in the United States, if you take our funding, you need to include this tool on your website. So essentially, it's a mock FAFSA. So you go in and put in some financial aid or some financial information about your family, and it will give you an estimate of what they would offer you as far as a financial aid award package. So maybe prior to applying early decision, go fill out the net price calculator and see if your EFC is close to 0. If you fill it out and they're like, oh, we think you're going to be able to pay $20,000 a year for this school, then maybe it's not a good idea to apply early decision. So if you speak with your counselor and they may not be aware of these waivers, please let the Game Plan College team know so we can better support you and your counselor. We're intentional about supporting our counselors and sharing the most updated policies with them. Yeah, so if you ask about a fee waiver and your counselor isn't quite sure what those are, please connect them to us and we can help you figure that out. Do we have any other questions? Okay, so just so you all know, we are hosting a college application summer intensive for the class of 2021, so that's rising seniors. If you would like information about that, please send us an email at gameplancollege@mlak.org, and we will send you the sign-up sheet. Essentially, this is going to take place online. We're going to meet for about 2 hours every day. We don't know what time yet. We're asking for your preference. This will be in Google Classroom. So the first week, we're going to work on making your college list. So those match, reach, and safety schools. We're going to work on your resume and your college essays. And then the second week is going to be devoted solely to ACT prep. And that will be with Academic Solutions NC, who we've worked with this entire past year. So we will have an actual expert. And just a reminder that all of our Game Plan College services are free of cost. So please take advantage of these services. People pay a lot of money for individual college coaching services. But if you are a Durham Public School student, we are happy to offer these services for free. Okay, does anyone have any other questions? I'll just give you a couple seconds to write those in the chat box. Okay, that seems to be it. So if you would like to make an appointment to meet with us one-on-one to talk about making your college list or your applications, you can go to our website, gameplancollege.org, and make an appointment with us. That will take place virtually over Google Hangout or the phone. Just a reminder to fill out our survey to be entered into our weekly raffle at bit.ly/GPC workshop. Just a reminder, we have a full schedule of workshops and college information sessions this week. So if you have a chance, please tune into those, which will happen at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day except Thursday this week. And Christina has linked our workshop schedule, which is bit.ly/GPC virtual. So thank you all so much for coming today. Again, email us if you have any questions, and we hope to see you later on this week.